we go, round 4 of SEO Battlezone. I'm your referee and hype man, Garrett Sussman of iPullRank, and we are going head to head. My man in one corner, the flying dinosaur, director of SEO at iPullRank, Zach Chahalis, and in the other corner, he should not be named. Still doesn't have an epithet, but he doesn't need one because, you know, everybody knows Mike, the man king. No, not the man. Whatever.
He who remains.
He who remains. Oh, a Marvel reference. Go see Quantum Mania. Okay, here we go. This week we are going hard on, man, something that's jumping all around the SEO community. AI content. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it the boogeyman? Is it not? We're gonna start up round 1. Here we go for Mike King. Is AI written content the SEO boogeyman? Time on the clock. Go.
AI content is not inherently bad. I think that there's a lot of misconceptions because people don't really understand how it works, like most things in SEO. And of course, Google leans in with the fear, uncertainty, and doubt and saying like, oh, we're going to go after this or whatever. I mean, I don't know if they've explicitly said they're going to go after it. But nevertheless, I think that we are going to see them checking the bad stuff. And I believe that both the spam update and the helpful content update are steps in that direction. Not to say that those were the sites that necessarily got hit, because I haven't seen true evidence of that. You know, you hear people talking about in the SEO echo chamber, but the reality of these technologies and how they work is they emulate how we write. And so they determine the probabilities of the next word in the sequence based on learning from tons and tons and tons of writing across the web. And so that's inherently going to be difficult to, definitively or track without there being a lot of false positives and false negatives. So I'm very skeptical that, these latest updates just came out and were able to identify that so perfectly that is why people lost their rankings. But I don't think those tools are inherently bad, especially if you're using them in the right way and you're not just like spinning up a whole bunch of terrible content and throwing it right out on the web like people used to do with content spinners and things like that. And again, the quality of this copy is far better than what SEO is used to historically. So I don't think they're the boogeyman. I just think they need to be used in the right way to scale content creation.
Boom. Okay, Zach, what do you think? Do you think AI content is bad for SEO?
No, I don't think it's bad for SEO. It can if used incorrectly. But I mean, I think we've come a long way, even just to what Mike talked about, many years ago with content spinners and just absolutely trash reading content. Like AI content has come a long way. There is a place and a space for it where it can be used effectively. In some cases, the inability to differentiate between some well-written AI content and, quite frankly, some poorly written human content, it's starting to overlap a little bit, right? Like you could start to put some of this content in front of people. If you could start to tell the difference, like it'd be kind of interesting to see like a taste test type thing there and see how many people get it wrong. But it's going to become harder to regulate if that was maybe how we want to look at it from the Google side. But I do think, to Mike's points, the algorithms are trying to go in that direction and trying to maybe get a little bit savvier in this way of trying to identify it. But so far I haven't seen it fully take effect.
Boom. Okay, round 2. Based on where we are at with the technology, how should SEOs be using AI-generated content? We're talking both written and visual generated content. Mike King, over to you. Go.
So I think the visual content is such a new arena and is really cool. There's a lot of opportunity for us to be generating more imagery with our content. And that's largely been, frankly, in SEO, like one of our debilitating factors with the content that we create, and that it's not visual enough. Like, so many people were just like, cool, 500-word blog post with the stock photo. Like, that never cut it, you know what I mean? And so now we have the opportunity to be generating precisely what imagery we want to go with what it is that we're putting out in the marketplace. But on the written side, I mean, I think the whole thing is that you can't just generate it and dump it on the web, because one of the things that language models are really bad at is factual information, you know. And I talk about this in my blog post, where there have been some strides, specifically with GPT-3, where they're trying to improve its ability to like give factual information. But the bottom line is it's always going to be hit or miss, because again, it's a series of probabilities about what is the next word based on statistics effectively, not whether or not is actually true. So I say all that to say, you can't use large language models without editing the content that comes from them. And then when we start thinking about like optimization, you know, you still have to do that layer of, you know, using co-occurrence and entities and so on if you want the content to be optimized. And so part of what I talk about in my blog post is like, you know, this idea of being able to generate perfectly optimized content at scale. We're not there yet. Like, the components exist for all of this. You know, you got tools that identify entities, you got tools that identify co-occurrence, and then you've got this prompt-based language model stuff that can generate copy. If we put all that stuff together and then also incorporated, you know, internal linking and things like that, then you can generate this like perfectly optimized content. But even then, you still have to make sure it makes sense. It's accounting for your brand voice and tone. So that whole layer of editing still has to happen if you're going to use this stuff effectively. And then once you've edited, well, how do you detect it? Because now you have a human who actually made adjustments to this copy, which was already generated by emulating humans. So what are you detecting? So yeah, really, just having that editorial layer is how you should be using this stuff moving forward.
There you go. That's a take, that there is opportunity there to use it. Zach, how do you think SEO should be using AI generated content, both written or visual?
I struggle to disagree with anything Mike just threw out. So, I mean, like, when you're looking at the video content that's been created from an AI perspective, like, look at some of the deep fake videos that are out there. I mean, like, there's some really cool stuff that's happening in this arena that can be used to build out very good supplementary type content for SEOs to use, especially when you factor it in with things like video optimization, structured data, all those things that can go along with it. So, I mean, there's some really cool things going on in that realm that I think SEOs could take advantage of. On the content textual side, yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. Like, you could use AI to help offload some of the work around the actual content creation. But some of these things, when it comes out of it, I mean, just as it is, there's grammatical issues, there's readability issues, there's fact-checking issues. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that are inherently a part of generating content through AI that need to be smoothed out. And yeah, I think to Mike's point, like, once an editor is going through this, how can you say it's not human created content? Like, the humans got in and edited it. So I think there's a lot of value in it potentially helping to offload some of the work there. But as it currently stands, and maybe it gets smarter down the line, maybe things continue to improve in this arena, maybe it gets better to the point we don't have to edit it as much. But right now, like, you can't put out AI generated content unless you legitimately want to look like it was written from someone that doesn't speak English as a first language.
There you go. Don't put the garbage out there, but it leads right into round 3. And I'm excited for this one because we're all kind of futurists deep down. What is the future trajectory of the technology and its impact on SEO? Mike, I know you thought about this. What do you think? Go ahead.
Yeah, I really think it's getting closer to that perfectly optimized content, like I'm just saying. And then if it levels the playing field for everyone to be able to generate a ton of this optimized content at scale, what is it that a search engine looks for? Of course, they're going to look for authority and so on and so forth. But assuming everything is equal, how do they determine what is the best result? And again, I think that's where humans come back into the space where it's like, cool, how do I invent something new? Or how do I talk about this subject in such a way where it hasn't been talked about before? And at that point, that becomes the more valuable thing to rank well. So it's really just a long way around for us to get back to people making content of value that changes perspectives on things. I think that one of the things we should be thinking about with this technology is its ability to make it so people don't have to write the quote unquote SEO content anymore. A machine can do that. And then you have those people doing more creative pursuits, writing more editorial style stuff rather than writing the 200 words that go at the bottom of a category page or something like that. So I think that's the future, really just like giving us back the ability to create things that are more focused on utility and creativity, while just doing all the table stakes stuff using algorithms.
I love it. Okay, Zach, do you have anything to add when it comes to the future trajectory of AI content?
No, I do think it's going to get more savvy and more usable and more efficient over time. The one that was sticking out to me, and Mike kind of alluded to it with category pages, but I was also thinking product descriptions. Like there's certain situations where you can leverage AI content today to kind of take some of the, I hate to say grunt work, but some of the grunt work out of content creation so that you can focus in those right areas, write what you're passionate about, write what is a differentiating factor for you versus trying to create new content because you have a purple product and a green product. So I think there's some ways that you can use some AI content there with editing to go down that path, but that allows you to focus that time somewhere else.
There you have it. All 3 rounds. I do want to throw a bonus round your way because I think when it comes to AI content, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about prompt engineering, because prompt will be the future of AI content and the ability to do that. And I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to talk a little bit about how important the prompts are when it comes to the technology being developed in the future. So Mike, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so prompts are basically how you tell these large language models to generate content, right? Like some of them will be, finish this sentence basically. In other cases, you can say very specifically, hey, large language model, this is what I want you to do. And then it spits it out, right? And so really it comes down to how explicit you can be in explaining to the large language model, like, here's what I want you to do. And you're talking to a computer. So the more explicit you can be, the better you're going to get at getting whatever it is that you want. And so, just for more context, this doesn't just apply to the generation of copy. It also applies to the generation of images, and large language models are what underpin a lot of these technology improvements that Google is making. So when you talk about things like Mom, and I did a whole webinar on that, go check that out. And then there's all these other things that Google is rolling out, like Palm and Glam and all these other things. All of them are based on what they've learned by building these large language models. So prompt engineering is going to be something that I expect will touch on the SEO space when we start to realize, like, hey, if you get good at this, you can engineer a lot of things without the need of people, whether it's, machine translation, or again, like content creation in a variety of ways, video creation, text to speech. There's so many different use cases that are going to become more popular, but are also getting more abstracted by the tools that are coming out, like your copy AIs, your Jasper AIs, all these things that are built on top of GPT-3 and other language models and so on. But what we found in the work that we do for our clients is that when we work on this stuff at the base level of using those language models directly, we just get higher quality stuff anyway.
You got my mind racing. I'm gonna drop a mind blowing a prediction after Zach shares his. Zach, prompt engineering. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's necessary, right? I mean, as kind of a data scientist guy and always looking on the data side of things, it's kind of the same thing there: garbage in, garbage out. So if you're not kind of optimizing what you're having this computer to do, it's literal, right? It's ones and zeros. There's no kind of gray space, so it has to try and follow some logic in that sense. So the more that you can optimize the prompt side of things and the direction that you're giving, the better the results are going to be.
Absolutely. Guys, this is awesome. Okay, ready for my serious prediction? We've got text, we got images. You mentioned, prompt coding. Before you know it, CMSs aren't even going to be a thing, because you'll be able to prompt a CMS creation on the spot, actually prompt creation of software on the spot, and then generate everything through that software, right? Because I was just thinking in the context of like schema and entities, like obviously you might tell prompt including all the semantic SEO for your content in the first place. Why stop there?
Well, technically you can do that right now. People are doing things where it's like the prompt is like, hey, design me a website with these colors and this thing and so on and so forth. And GPT-3 can already do that. Like, it can already write you code based on your specifications. As to how good it is, I mean, that's a whole different thing. But like, there's something called GitHub Copilot, where you can prompt it and it'll write the code for you. So this stuff exists. It's just that, it's mostly coders that are playing with it. It's not like marketers and things like that. So once we get to a point where, in fact, I saw on Twitter last night, there was a developer who built a command line interface for GPT-3, and he would ask it questions, and he's like, yo, this is actually better than me going to Stack Overflow or something like that. So, the capabilities exist. It's really just going to take someone who can abstract it and then build the tools that everyone can use.
Zach, you have anything to add?
No, I mean, I agree with that. It just continues to evolve, right? I mean, everything's going to progress forward. And I think once people start to find the key of something, it's just going to be unlocking it. But I do agree with Mike. Like, it's something that in essence can happen right now. It is happening right now to a point.
There you go. So we'd love to hear your thoughts. Share in the comments, share, like, and subscribe to us. What are your thoughts on AI content? Is it legit? Do you use it for SEO? Is it an awful idea? My name is referee hype man Garrett Sussman. We've got director of SEO, the flying dinosaur Zach Chahalis, and he who shall not be named Michael King. All of iPullRank. Once again, drop in an SEO Battlezone. We will catch you next week as always.